right, we are live. We should be good now. Yeah, all right. So I just wanted to come on live for a little bit, do a quick live stream, editing some real estate photography. Got this nice property here from a few days ago, and I already finished editing all of the shots for it. And we've got some interior shots, exterior, night shots, day shots. And I just wanted to come back here and do some quick live streaming of actually editing the raw photos and stuff like that. So just going through these final images here. I think they came out pretty clean. There's a good amount of contrast. The colors are pretty well balanced. They're pretty nice and sharp. The images overall, I don't think they're necessarily perfect, but they're definitely good enough. And yeah, just going through these real quick. So there's the final images right there. Here's all the raw images for the pros, and then I've got the mags right here, which are basically just the high-end, more elaborate edits that we do. But you know, we can see everything that's named right here. So I think I'm actually going to do this exterior night shot, and this one's actually pretty difficult because not only do I need to take the highs and the lows and basically blend them together, I also have to kind of zoom in into different areas and use the pen tool and kind of mask things off with certain areas and things like that to get more precision and stuff like that. But it's not too difficult. So I'm just gonna bring up Camera Raw and just start making some adjustments here. And now that I've got that, I'm just gonna call this, I'm not even gonna save it because I've already got these all done. So I'm just gonna kind of continue the workflow here, and I'll grab this one and just come back into a Camera Raw. Adjust the color temperature. Adjust the greens and the purples, things like that. And I actually just reformatted my computer, so the settings probably aren't going to be set up exactly how they need to be here in Photoshop. Whoops, yeah, see, might have to be a little patient with me with some of these edits and stuff like that, but just bringing in this darker exposure right here, just trying to blend it in together. What I don't want to do is paint this in so much that the right hand side over here, this wall, this column, starts to get dark. That's not what I want. I don't want that kind of look. I want things to be nice and even, and that's where the masking with the lasso tool and the pen tool and all that fun stuff kind of comes into play. But as a base, I'm just going to get this set up and see if I can't go down with the exposure and do this a little bit more. Again. And I'm actually going to edit these panels so that the color is at the top. That gets rearranged. Now I can just adjust the color temperature first, and then the light and overall exposure and things like that. That's how I like to have the panels set up here in Camera Raw. Things like that. Throw that on there, but since I already resized the image, go ahead and scale that down. And then I'll just see if I can't take the soft brush, just kind of dab this into these areas that are somewhat just a little bit too bright. Don't want to go too crazy. Don't want to go too crazy or anything. Need to check the live stream to make sure it's running decent from time to time. I have absolutely no experience live streaming anything. So this is going to be an absolute blast, as you can tell. It's going to be a big party. A big old party, you know. Not really, though. So I'm just going to take my hard brush, which has the opacity and the flow set to 100, and I'll just paint that in instead of using the paint bucket tool to fill that in. Sometimes I like to do it like that. And then I'll click this mask over here and just feather this a little bit. And I'm actually taking quite a lot of time to just kind of explain this stuff. It's really what it's about. I've already done the property, so I guess there's not too much of a rush to really do these. And I should be using the pen tool, since these have these shapes over here with the chairs and stuff have a lot of curves and things like that. It looks like I went too far down, so I'm going to come in here and just subtract that. Use my soft brush and just paint this in. Just like that. Maybe grab the blur tool. Just feather that edge so it's not quite as harsh. And I'll paint it out a little bit so it kind of matches the exterior surrounding areas. And I'll do the same over here. Again, I should be using the pen tool. But the polygonal lasso tool can be so much faster. Just using that. With these areas that I'm trying to paint in to make them a little bit darker, I'm just trying to avoid overexposed areas like the lights can typically have and things like that. So this is looking pretty good so far. There's the before, there's the before, there's the after. And as you can see, as we bring in the other exposures, the image is going to darken up a little bit, but that's kind of the sacrifice that you have to make, you know. Kind of comes with the whole balancing act. But now that I've got that done, I'm going to merge all those onto a new layer and see if I can't brighten up the sky. Grab the quick selection tool. Actually, let's see if I can't use the select the sky. Yeah, I did a decent job. Usually doesn't do things perfectly, but that's pretty much Photoshop. So I'll come back in here, grab this other area over here. And now that I've got the pretty much the whole sky selected, I'm just going to pop in a mask and just kind of brighten this up, kind of overblow it a little bit. And then, let's see. Yeah, come in here, select the mask, feather it. I'm going to paint this out, paint it in. Paint it into the surrounding areas, paint it out, paint it in, paint it out, paint it in. And I'm trying to get it to kind of blur together so that it's a soft, natural kind of look to it. Before, after, before, after. Don't want it to bleed into the surrounding areas too much though, or else we're just going to get that overexposed kind of look, you know. But I'm not going to leave this at 100%. I'll just go up like that. Something like that is decent. And then paint it out just a little bit more before or after. That's fine. Again, going to kind of come in there and merge all onto a new layer. And want to use the pen tool, get a selection with that, because looks like there's a tree or something moving over here, some kind of branch or something, so I don't want to leave that there. I'm just going to use a soft brush, crank up the opacity, sample a similar color to that area, and just paint that out. Get rid of this over there in the right hand area as well. And yeah, that's decent. Doesn't have to be necessarily perfect. Just wanted to get rid of that. Kind of blur this a little bit so that those edges aren't quite as noticeable. But you know, that's kind of overkill for what I need to do. Again, I don't need to save it, so I'm just gonna cancel that. Before, after, before, after, before, after. So it's starting to come together. This area over here inside is looking a little desaturated, and I think it could use a little bit of contrast. Yeah. Yeah, that should be okay. So I'll use that existing selection, paint that in there, and then paint that in there just a little bit. Whoops. It's such a habit to hit Control S or Command S every 2 seconds. But yeah, that's looking pretty good so far. Just kind of looking around. Yeah, it's not bad so far. What I need to do now is kind of just look around the overall image and see if there's any leaves in the pool or anything that just kind of needs to be cleaned up. You know, like spots on the ground, things like that. Stuff that really doesn't take much time to remove. It's pretty easy. Sometimes there are just tons of leaves in the pool, and the real estate agent wants them all gone. Fortunately, there's like literally two leaves in the pool, so I guess the pool guy has been out this week to clean it up, which is always good. It's less work for me, you know. So now that that's looking pretty decent, I'm gonna throw that into lab mode. And then I'm just going to sharpen this with my sharpening pass. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, it took a lot longer. It took a little bit longer than I needed to really spend on this. But that's just kind of because I'm explaining things as I do it. Just want to make sure that the left and right hand sides are pretty even. I know these are pretty incremental adjustments here, but just want to make things as tidy, you know, kind of tidy as possible. Hit that, get those little stars out of there, but there we go. And remove the guides. And maybe just hit it with a touch of saturation. Like literally just a soft brush, expand it so it's pretty big, so that kind of covers the you know, most of the area of the image and things like that. But yeah, that's about it. Like I said, I've already edited this this shot, so it's already sent out to the agent. They were happy with the job and how it came out overall. Hopefully there's nothing messed up with this image that I just didn't even see as I'm looking at this. Hopefully you're not looking at this and you're like, oh my gosh, how did you miss that? How did you miss that leaf right there? Are you insane? Are you out of your mind? But overall, I think that one came out pretty good. Like I said, I'm not even going to bother saving this. So we're just going to move on. Let's go back over to OBS. Just to make sure that the live stream is working. I think everything is going good so far. So yeah, we're just going to keep going. Just going to keep going here. Give me 1 second. Okay. And now we are back, and I'm just going to keep going on to these other images here. And I guess we'll go ahead and do just like a bunch real quick. So these are the pros. These are the ones that the agents don't pay a lot for. They're pretty cheap. And we don't spend as much time editing these as we do with our more advanced images and stuff like that. So I'm just going to pop this into Camera Raw as usual. And I'm not necessarily looking for perfection here. Really just trying to get in and out. As far as these exposures and kind of blending them together and just moving on to the next. Hopefully I don't really have to explain a whole lot that's really going on here. Pretty basic adjustments going on. Just throw that right on there. Delete that, close that. Resize this down to about 4K. So I've got one exposure with a flash and one without. As you can see, I'm painting in the one with the flash. That's why we're getting this reflection from the flash in the window. So I'll just kind of paint that out real easily like that. And like I said, these are really typically pretty simple shots. I try to get in and out with these real quick. Really, really quick. Just remove that, throw in some guides. Just kind of come in here. Fix that. If I had more time, I should really remove that little lens flare right there, but again, doesn't matter. Property's already been sent out, and we're just kind of doing this for fun at this point. And yeah, that's pretty much it. When it comes to these, the low end, the low price shots like these, I'll spend like maybe 2 minutes on them. If they don't require tons of editing on them, I'll spend like 2 minutes on them. I'll save it, and then when I review the final images, I'll come back and really kind of go to town with the color correction, make sure the contrast and everything is right, and just clean up anything that I didn't catch during the first phase of editing. So having said that, I'm just going to move on. You know, that's done. You know, if I was actually editing these for real, then I would definitely be saving these out as JPEGs. You know, but no need for that. So just in optics, I like to have this open so that I can remove the chromatic aberration. It's not really necessary to remove any chromatic aberration right now. What this is helpful for is usually the windows. It'll get that red, green, blue, and yellow, and purple 3D look around the windows, and then by removing the chromatic aberration there under optics, it'll remove that. So that will help to result in a much cleaner look for the window areas and things like that. Again, just kind of popping those in there. And then with a soft brush, just kind of painting that in. It's getting a little bit dark. But that looks okay. It's not really that great. Again, I don't rely on the automatic lens distortion tool in Photoshop to fix the any warping. I usually like to throw in some guides on the left and right hand side and manually do it myself because Photoshop just sucks when it comes to doing that. Usually warps the image even more. Just makes it look even worse. Just make a selection there. The image is like pretty dark and dim and just kind of boring and lifeless. So I love to just select, random objects like picture frames are the easiest thing that you can select because they're usually just square, rectangular shapes. I'm going to use that existing. Use the existing adjustment layer to paint that in. The wood over here is like in need of a little bit of not saturation, but contrast. Again, throw that into lab mode, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If this was an advanced image, I'd come in here and make sure that this resembles more of a night shot. This shot was probably taken and photographed at like 6:30 or something. These are night shots, so they need to really look like night shots. If I had more time, I'd come in there and just, using that or the pen tool. Spend a little bit more time to really give it that atmosphere that it needs to resemble more of a nighttime look. But again, I'm not going to save these, so we're just going to move on. Already did a few bedroom shots. Here's another one. Got this family night shot, front shot, kitchen shot, just kind of looking for something a little bit more interesting. And with these, it's pretty typical that your exposures are going to be like really, really warm and oversaturated with like yellows and stuff like that. So it's always good to get really, really good at balancing the color, the colors and the color temperature, things like that. It's a decent base right there. Again, as you can see, there's a few without the flash and a few taken with the flash. I'm going to grab this one that uses the flash, and I'm just going to kind of focusing on the lights up here. I don't want these to be kind of overexposed. I'd like to soften them up just a little bit. See how this looks. Don't need that. Take that down to 4K, pop in a mask. And with the soft brush, I'm just going to kind of paint this into the left hand side, the middle, and a little bit to the right. Just kind of dabbing, holding down the mouse button as I drag it out. It's always a delicate balance not to make your images too dark as you do that, though. But again, I mean, that's pretty much it. This image really doesn't require a lot. There's not really much to clean up here. There's nothing. I mean, I could remove the wire over here. I mean, just looking around, there's not much to really clean up. I could remove the light switch on the right-hand side over there. But as a base, I would just save this out as a JPEG and then come back as I review the images right before I send them out, and then just kind of go to town with any final color correction. So if you're looking at this thinking it doesn't really look that great, and there's still more that needs to be done, that's probably the case. And that's why I hold on to these images and don't just send them out and upload them onto our virtual tours when I finish each image or anything like that. I finish the whole property, then I review the whole property, and I'll usually hold on to it for like another 5 or 10 minutes, and then take another third or fourth look at it to make sure things are really in tune and balanced, and then send that out on the virtual tour and things like that. But I remember this one was a bit difficult with the colors and stuff like that. I'm actually going to edit this one and then real quick, and then show you the final image from what I actually sent out, and hopefully I can kind of match it right here and now, but I doubt it because I had some trouble with this one. I kept having to come back to this one and edit, fix and adjust the other colors and things like that. It's always a delicate balance to get it right in between the green and the purple, and your oranges and your blues and things like that. Sometimes it could be just literally like 1 or 2 increments needed that'll really get you in that sweet spot. And if you're out of that sweet spot, it's like there's something wrong, and you don't know what it is, but there's something off about it. Sometimes I'll have to come back to these images like 20 times, and I can't figure out what's wrong. What I also like to do is sometimes I like to just merge all onto a new layer and literally just use the camera raw filter to edit all these values. It can be, because it really gives you access to everything all at once, instead of having to come in here and use adjustment layers. Like if you wanted to use brightness and contrast or maybe curves, you can do those things, and then you keep popping in things for color balance, hue and saturation, things like that. So you're kind of going through all these different adjustment layers, whereas if you just merge all onto a new layer and then hit the hotkey to bring it into camera raw, you really have access to everything all at once with a few simple sliders, and it just puts that result onto this one layer instead of having all those adjustment layers stacked up. There's a time and a place for adjustment layers, and there's definitely a time and a place for using the camera raw filter, and it can really save time. This is usually what I use when I'm doing the final review. Is I'll just bring those JPEGs right back in here and just duplicate the layer, and then hit the camera raw filter, make those adjustments, and then pop on a mask and just paint in whatever I need to the area that I see that needs to be affected. So this right now it needs like contrast and brightness on the ceiling area, and the colors are like a little off. It looks kind of soft and oversaturated, so what I'm doing is kind of sucking the life out of it by like desaturating it, cooling the temperature down, and then adding contrast to it. And I'm doing that for like the surrounding area as well on the left and right hand side, but it's really primarily the ceiling that needs it. But I feel like it's a bit too much, so instead of leaving that at 100%, I'll just kind of bump this up to where I feel like it's a little safer, like maybe like 72 or 80%, something like that. But right now I think that's fine. And always zoom into your reflections and things like that. Make sure your photographers aren't in the shot. You know, you can remove little things that you want. Most photographers are complete idiots, and they'll stand right in front of the mirror in the bathroom, and the editors won't even remove the photographers because, you know, they're like outsourcing it to India, or it's the photographer that's editing the stuff, or, you know, whoever is using Photoshop just kind of doesn't know how to use the tools, or whatever the case is. So it's always good to practice in the field as the photographer, you know, to stay out of the shot. And this photographer here knows how to do exactly that. So it kind of looks like we're right in the middle, but he's actually standing. He's usually off center by like 4 or 5 inches, just enough to get out of the reflection and still maintain that really nice frame and composition, you know. So if you have a good photographer that knows how to get good exposures, your job is going to be a lot easier as an editor and a post-production artist. So I'm just going to do the same thing over here. Really simple stuff here. Simple stuff adds up to a complex result, you know. The basics really go far. Doesn't have to be crazy complicated or anything like that, but I think this looks decent so far. Again, I'm just going to merge all onto a new layer, and I'm sure there's a lot that I need to do to this. I want to bring up the final result that I had. But here's the before, here's the after. Again, you can kind of see how it's a little oversaturated with the column and the ceiling itself. Again, just cooling things down, desaturating it, and adding that contrast to bring out the characteristics of the wood. Excuse me. And wood is typically one of the most difficult textures or objects or materials to make pop. It's really difficult to balance the contrast and the saturation of the wood itself, you know. But that looks pretty good. Let me go ahead and real quick just navigate to, what is this? The loft? Yeah. Let's bring up the loft. Okay. And that's actually the final one that I sent out. So these are like basically, let me resize that real quick. Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, they're pretty similar. I'm actually kind of surprised. Looks like I cooled this one down more than I kind of needed to. But I kind of prefer how the lights are somewhat overexposed, just a tad. But they're pretty similar. This one's just a little bit brighter. I kind of prefer that. But then again, this isn't an advanced image that really needs like an hour to be taken on it, you know, so that's cool though. I thought it was going to be drastically different. Just to take a quick break, kind of go through these. I think I showed these off earlier, but these are the finals. And like I always say, they're not perfect, but I have to do the best that I can with the time that I have. I think on this particular day, I had like 3 other jobs to edit, like full jobs, like the size of this house. I think I had like 3 of these or something. So it's always about what you can do with the time that you've got. But I think they're solid overall. You know, I wish I could take more time like I can right now, since, you know, I'm just kind of live streaming and really doing nothing but kind of going back to a property that was already done. But, you know, it's a cool property. Like this one could use like more brightness, I think. Like this is what I typically do. I'll like review these. I'll just go through all the images. And if I see anything wrong, I'll just, bring it in and bring it into Photoshop, hit Command J to duplicate it, and then the hotkey to bring it into Camera Raw. And I'm just exaggerating the corrections that need to be made, basically giving myself more than what I need, So I wouldn't leave it like that, but this looks a little oversaturated. It could use a little bit of brightness and could use more contrast. So what I like to do is just make those edits with Camera Raw and then pop a mask into it and just use a soft brush. That's pretty much it. And then merge it down, or you can come down here and hit flatten image and Control S or Command S, whatever you need to do. And, that just makes it pop a little bit more. If I had more time, I would isolate the windows and, make it darker outside. That way it's not, getting like overblown bright. I would definitely do the same with that. But again, these aren't the high cost images right here that the clients are paying for. So we're not going to take, all the time in the world to make sure that these are absolutely perfect or anything like that. Whoops. But yeah, this one is, it's like got a little too much saturation in it. On the left-hand side, and definitely over here. These images can be really, really difficult to balance with the colors and stuff. If you get good with balancing the contrast, brightness, the colors, and the color temperature, then you're in a really good spot as an editor for photography, like architecture, real estate, and stuff like that. Night shots can be really difficult also, because you need to make things bright and pop, but at the same time you need to maintain the idea that it's a night shot, And again, I'm looking at this now and it's definitely not perfect, but I guess I could kind of use this one as an example to show you the raw images. What was that? Was that dining? What shot was that? That was family night. Family one night, yeah. And you can kind of see the exposures are, they really need to be tamed, With the advanced images, there's like, my photographer will typically go out and get about 12 shots, Like here's the basic workflow. He'll get like half without a flash, and then like the other half with a flash, as you can see, like in the reflection. So it's like half and half. And then I just blend them together and then just mask out the windows, as like the third step. So it's really like just blending a flash with a non-flash, making sure the interiors are like in a safe place, and then going to work on the, outside view and stuff like that. And then I guess the fourth step would be to really like focus on the interior, interior, and like remove things that don't need to be there, like this, like maybe brighten up the TV or the like individual objects or something that could help to make the image pop and stuff like that. But that's like the basic workflow for our advanced images and stuff, I always tell people to use Nikons for real estate photography, not necessarily videography. I don't care what people use for videography. I like the Sonys and stuff like that, but as far as the photography goes, I always tell people to use like a Nikon 780 or a D750 because the contrast and the overall exposure that the Nikons get is really ideal for editing. It's a really great camera when it comes to the other colors and what it can achieve in the field. And then when you bring it in for post-production in Photoshop, it's as an editor, it makes things way easier, and it's a really consistent camera. And again, here's just the the lower cost images, which again is like maybe 5 or 6 exposures total. It's pretty simple stuff, but I'm gonna go back to the final images here. And these exterior night shots can be pretty difficult to balance as well, because I always try to make the night sky kind of pop out, and the outside pool area pop out. And I also need this to be somewhat bright as well. I don't want the interior part of this room to be bright and then the exterior to be like really dark. I want them to be balanced. And sometimes that's when you're gonna have to take a lot of time and just come in there with like the pen tool and go around different things and stuff like that and really mask things out, and take your time and just use the adjustment layers to make things perfect and all that. I really can't stand to see images that are not balanced as far as like the overall areas of the room. I want the sky to be in balance with the like the ground if it's an outside front shot. All sorts of crap. There's all sorts of crap that I've learned over the last like 12 years of doing this. But the Nikons are one of the reasons that it's easier, because we've used Canons and stuff like that, and the Canons, in my opinion, are garbage, specifically for real estate photography. I'm sure a lot of people disagree with that, but that's just been my personal experience. The Canons are great for portraits and pretty much everything else, but as an editor, I've had all the high-end Nikons and all the high-end Canons, and the Nikons they just produce a better result that's just more reliable and gives me the ability to walk away with a superior result when compared to like Canons and stuff like that. But one thing that I always see with real estate images is like people leaving areas like way overblown on the table. I wouldn't use an adjustment layer if I was editing this. I would use the actual exposure needed, because once you pop in an adjustment layer on top of like a JPEG or something, and you're not using the actual exposures, you're gonna get, you can get some like destructive artifacts, like a little bit of noise and stuff like that. So, but I mean, if I was just like reviewing this real quick and I was like, oh crap, I totally forgot to take the brightness down, just go in there real quick. It doesn't have to be like perfect. Like blur the edges so it's not sharp, and then just with a soft brush, like paint it out, just dab it a few times, That way it's just a little bit safer. I don't want it to be quite, white. I don't want things to be that overexposed. But I see that a lot, like if we were over here in the kitchen, maybe I could find a good example of like tabletops and things like that. How they're always overexposed in people's shots. I don't think I'm going to be able to find a good one here, but I'll just like recreate it. So when people, like they're masking the windows and they make all the windows perfect, Sometimes the table, like right below, is completely overexposed, and it's not really matching the exposure of the outside view that they just brought in. So like they just went to town and worked on the making the outside view perfect, but sometimes the reflections from the table and like mirrors and things like that, those different types of materials, they're basically just a reflection. So always look for the reflections and make sure that they're kind of in line with what's needed. If you have a mirror that's like right here on the wall, you don't want that to be reflecting outside and then not be able to see the outside, right? Like if this was a mirror and it was completely like a sunny day or something, you wouldn't want it to be like that. And then you have the windows like perfect. You would want it to match, the exposure, I see that pretty often, but I guess that's kind of a tangent going off there. But it doesn't really matter because, we've got time right now, so I guess this would be a good example of this image. I hate doing images like these. These suck. Not only do they suck because there's a lot to composite together, like we've got this non-flash that's really, really warm. It's going to be difficult to balance with the other colors and things like that. But we've also got, I forget what this is called, like the fringe, where it eats into certain parts of the photo because it's so overblown and bright. Like there's that. The photographer is also putting too much pressure on the shutter button as he's firing, and it's not aligning, So I have to go in there like literally pixel by pixel, and I'll just move things around like to align them so that there's not that annoying motion blur. I can't stand that crap. But I guess I'll do this one. As much as I hate this image, I think there was a few from this property. This is definitely an advanced image that took a long time to edit. I don't know if I'm going to put the care and attention that I did originally into this shot right now. But I really don't like images like this. I hate stuff that is like battling itself. We've got all the wood. We've got the wood on the floor, the wood on the cabinets over here, the walls, the ceiling. Everything is kind of like fighting each other, and it's got this tendency to be difficult to balance. And again, this isn't lining up. So there's an auto align function in Photoshop. I forget where it is. I never use it because it doesn't even work like 80% of the time. So I physically just have to come in here, and I don't even know if it's going to work, but what I physically do is just literally go in there like pixel by pixel. Let me lower this resolution just down to 4K so it's a little bit easier. But just find a point somewhere and just like match it up. I mean, you can tell this is way off. My photographer always fights me on this. He's like, oh no, it's perfect. No, it's perfect. There's no way it can be messed up. Tell him every other day. It's off. Fix it. He's like, oh, it was a problem with my tripod. It was like the ball head on the tripod that was a problem. It's fixed now. I'm like, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. And the problem, even if you come in there and align things like perfectly pixel by pixel, you'll do it on like the right hand side, or you'll pick a spot like this faucet here in the middle. That's perfect now, right? It's perfect there, but it's not perfect over here because what he's doing is he's pressing down and it's basically rotating the camera. It's rotating the camera. So it might be perfect on the left-hand side, but it's not going to be perfect on the right-hand side. So it's like, it's a losing battle sometimes. Not only that, but sometimes the exposures just literally have motion blur. So you can align things as much as you want. But if if the photographer is pressing on it so much, it's going to result in literal motion blur because the camera's actually like traveling as small as the amount is. It's traveling a distance. So it's like, just do the best you can. Unfortunately. So I'm just kind of focusing on the outside exposure and like color temperature. I don't even know if you'll be able to see this, but there's a little bit of chromatic aberration happening right here. And under optics, just click remove chromatic aberration, and it removes that the red and the blue and all those different colors that gives it that 3D look that's unwanted. And you can, I don't even know if you can see it on your monitor, but right here on the light bulb, you can see chromatic aberration happening here. When I click that, it removes. Photoshop does a great job at analyzing the photo. Yeah, you can see it a little bit better over here. Before, after. What's happening is it's actually, it's kind of analyzing and targeting known areas for it to happen, and it's basically desaturating the reds and other colors that result in chromatic aberration and stuff like that. So it's really cool. Sometimes I'll just tick it automatically out of like instinct. I wish there's a way to have that ticked off by default, so I didn't have to come in there every single time and do that. That would be great. That would be awesome. Be one less thing that I really have to do in Photoshop. I don't even know what's going on here. Kind of lost track of what I was doing as I was talking. I think it's just the fact that they're not even aligning. Whoops. Again, I'm not going to save these. Yeah, it's not aligning, which results in more fun for me. And you, because you get to watch. You get to watch the fun play out. So for these like primitive shapes, I usually just use the polygonal lasso tool instead of the pen tool. With these round shapes, I should be using the pen tool, but I'm always trying to think of ways to cut corners and save time. So sometimes what I'll do is, if I know I can use other tools to save that time, I will just like cut right through that, slice through it, and then just come back in here with the hard brush. You can get away with it pretty easily because these are literally just, circles. The shape of the brush. And then just zoom in and then hit shift to make a straight line. Stuff like that. Might have to take down the overall exposure of those, but I think that looks decent so far. I'm gonna hit the mask and feather that real quick. Whoops. Let me delete this real quick. Trying to see which one I want to use for the outside. I think I'll go with that one. Crank up the shadows, crank down the highlights, hit chromatic aberration, add a little bit of saturation to that. I think that'll be okay. And again, I'm just perplexed every time I see this not aligning and stuff like that. Every exposure that I bring into the document and I have to redo it, it just makes things so much more fun. So again, definitely get away with the polygonal lasso tool here. Pretty simple stuff. Try and make those perfect. And just pop in a mask. And again, instead of coming in here, I hate having to do this one by one, you know, 16, 15, 20 times, whatever. I like to just block it out, cut right through those objects, and then come back and get rid of those areas where it doesn't need to be like sliced through. But this one, I'm actually going to select that mask and just like feather the edges a little bit. And before I edit the window area anymore, I'm gonna pop in a mask and just use a soft brush. And use a soft brush. Kind of take down those overexposed areas, and then I'll come back to this one. Yeah. And as you can see, this area right here is dark. This one's a little bit lighter. So instead of like coming in here and selecting certain areas and stuff like that, I'm actually just gonna use a soft brush. Make sure I'm on that mask, and then paint it out just by dabbing once. Paint it in, paint it out, paint it in, paint it out. And that's like basically good enough. I mean, there's a little bit of that fringe here. I wasn't going to leave the exterior right at 100%. So painting it out a little bit is kind of good. But I will select that and then just paint this in. And as you can see, it's kind of still eating into the metal bar. So I'm going to reactivate that selection and then just with a soft brush and then just sample that and literally paint this in, because it's like just black. It's just a black color, like dark. You can get away with that. And that will help to kind of redefine that object and get rid of this, like, you know, the bleed that's eating into it. That can help to really sharpen up your like objects in the scene if they're suffering from lens flares and things like that. Just do that. And again, it really helps to add that definition to these metal bars. And we can totally get away with that easily, since the bars are literally just like black bars. But make sure that you're actually making the shape like pretty precise. I was going outside like too much there. So again, just getting rid of that fringe, and it just results in a better result. It results in a better result. That sounds really smart, but yeah, as you can see, that's like way better now. That's way better. But yeah, I think that looks pretty decent overall. It's really the colors that are kind of battling right now. It's definitely the yellows and oranges and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to tone those down. I don't want to take it down too much, otherwise it'll just look like really, really desaturated. That's not what I'm going for. I don't want to add saturation but I want to add saturation in the right areas. It's a really difficult image to balance, like I said earlier. Make sure that you're removing anything that's in the reflection. Make sure the flashes aren't going off in the reflection. But this image looks pretty decent overall. I'm going to merge all into a new layer, pop in some guides, and just kind of like fix the left and right hand sides. Yeah, it looks decent overall. It's not bad. There's still a lot that needs to be done to this. I'm going to sharpen it. Make sure it's at like 4K, and it is. Yeah, I should have taken down the brightness of those lamps. I think it looks pretty good though. Especially this area. This looks pretty solid. It's pretty strong. Not bad overall. Let me grab the final that I actually sent out. And what was this? Kitchen 1. Yeah, kitchen 1. Let me grab this. And let's see how close it is. Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely needed to spend more time on this one. Looks like this was actually what I sent out to the client, which isn't great in my opinion. It looks like I cooled it down way too much. Made it more desaturated than it needs to be. And I guess I was just in a rush with this one. Yeah. Because I prefer, if I could blend this one with this 50-50, I think it'd be like way better. But yeah, I definitely was trying to get through this property quick. I had a pretty big day to get through with, I think 2 or 3 other properties. But yeah, this came out pretty good though. This one right now. So I'm gonna take a quick break and be back in just a second. All right. We are back. And I think I'm just going to go through a few more. It's getting kind of late where I'm at. I think I'll do maybe some outside day shots. Let's see what we can get going here. Yeah, we'll just go through a few more of these pretty quick. Just trying to figure out which one I want to go with. When it comes to these outside shots, usually I don't end up using more than one. I usually don't end up using more than one exposure because the trees are moving and stuff like that. And when you start to blend them together, it will result in that ghost. The ghosting and motion blur and stuff like that. So I guess I'll just go with this one. I'm focusing on the right hand side. Not so much the left hand side. The left hand side is like completely blown out. Completely blown out. And then I'm just going to reopen the same one. And now I'm looking at the left hand side. Trying to cool it down. And that should work pretty good. And instead of going right in there, I'm going to select this one, unlock it, go up to select, sky, automatically selects the sky, does a decent job. Yeah, and then just paint in the rest on the left hand side, a little bit on the right hand side. I'm not going to leave it as is because it's just a little dark in the sky area. Don't want it to be dark. Pop in a hue and saturation layer. Add some saturation to it. Before, after. Kind of zoom in here. Make sure that you're not getting harsh edges where it made that selection. It kind of is a little bit, but can't really tell, so it's fine. Again, just kind of brush that out. I want things to be pretty nice and bright, but I still want to see the asphalt or the whatever this concrete material is for the ground, whatever it is. That looks decent overall. Come in here and just clean up any leaves. Get rid of that. Sky looks pretty good. There's a dirt spot on the lens that needs to be removed. Again, merge all onto a new layer and then just run that sharpen action. And, there we go. That's a decent result for like 2 minutes or so. 2 or 3 minutes is pretty acceptable time when it comes to these basic shots. This is a good image to do. This is a basic image, but it's not easy to edit because the colors are kind of like all over the place. So let me hit cancel, then I'll get rid of these. Bring that back up in Camera Raw. And I need to cool this down. I'll set it to like 2800. -1 for the grains there. And I'm just trying to establish a base here, and I think that's okay. Now grab one that's darker and just repeat the same process here. Try 2900, see if that works. Yeah, I think that's okay. This one has a flash, I believe. Yeah, looks like this one has a flash. Be careful when it comes to the flashes bouncing off the back of chairs and things like that. It's usually not a good look. It's not terribly noticeable here. But yeah, it definitely is there. Just to kind of drive the point home, I'll bring in this one. Just to kind of show you the difference of the back of the chair and how you don't want the flashes. Yeah, that's a big difference right there. You don't want this. It's really noticeable. If you know of certain things to look for, you're going to be able to see that and spot it pretty quickly when it comes to different images and things like that. In photography, you'll typically know when somebody was using a flash or when they weren't. So just trying to focus on the left-hand side. Try not to really bring that in too much. And then I'll use this one, which doesn't have a flash. I'm going to paint this into like the middle, primarily the middle area. Zoom in here and see if I can't get these to align. I know they're like out of whack here. I think that's okay. Let's check the other side. And again, probably can't see it on your monitor, but this one has a little bit of motion blur, but since we're at such a distance, we can definitely get away with that. But these look pretty good so far as an established base. So it's looking pretty decent so far. And just come in there real quick and clean up the leaves, anything that's like in there. Since I've already got these all merged onto a new layer, I'm gonna see if I can't use the quick selection tool and just make a big rough selection of the outside. Pop in a brightness and contrast layer, kind of punch these up, brighten it. And of course, I'm not gonna leave it like that, but I'm really just trying to get the outside to pop more. Select that mask and then feather it, and then take it down to 0. And incrementally just bump it up. Something like that. And paint it in a little bit more over here. And that's pretty good. You know, even if it's like a difference of like 15 or 20% more brightness or more color, sometimes that, you know, that's pretty much all that needs to be done to really make the image pop more and bring out the overall visual appeal and get things to be get it to where it needs to be, you know. Just be careful you're not getting those you know, sharp hard edges. If you are, make sure that things are getting blended in together properly in a convincing manner, you know. Don't leave things kind of all over the place, you know. I'll just take that down just a tad more. Before, after. Yeah, so I'm really trying to get the interior of the lanai balanced, as well as the night sky and the pool area, things like that. And just zoom in, make sure that things look good overall. I think that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna merge all onto a new layer again and just drag out another guide. Use the warp tool. And get the top right and the top bottom here. Zoom out so I can see the bottom there. That's good. Before, after. Just to help, you know, make things more visually appealing, straighten things out, just do whatever needs to be done. And this is pretty good. That was a somewhat difficult image to balance when it comes to the colors and things like that. Let me see if I can't reset this. Reset that to default so I can going to show you that starting point of where we were at with these raw exposures. Yeah, as you can see, you really got to be good when it comes to balancing and cooling things down when necessary. Because, the entire image is just basically like orange and, yellow. Just looks like total crap. And, putting it all together, hopefully you can end up with an image that looks, pretty good. And I think that looks pretty good. It looks really clean. I'm sure there's more that I need to, do to it. Come back later on and review it, make any final edits, any tweaks, things like that. But I think for going from this, combining all those and ending up with that, this is very clean. The white columns, not white columns, but the white ceiling, the walls, and the floor, things like that, managed to make that white, have a nice white balance, and get the ceiling, to have enough contrast, get saturation on the objects that need to have it, and take away saturation where it shouldn't be, and balance it all together. And I think that looks really good overall. Not bad for like 5 or 6 minutes, or however long we had that there. This is another one that's pretty difficult to do, but yeah, I think we've done enough. Yeah, there's plenty more. This property wasn't that easy to edit. There's a lot to balance and stuff like that. But just going through these again, there's definitely more that I could have done with some of these images. But overall, I think they came out pretty good. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this little live stream here. Hopefully anybody watching got, some good information out of this. And maybe I'll be back sometime soon or something. I don't know. But I had a lot of fun. This is cool. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be back and do another one or something. Maybe I'll grab some more properties and actually edit them from beginning to end instead of just going back to a property that I had already done before. But hopefully you guys have a good one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.